finals and salute to the flag. Salute to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where's yours in this section?
So I was not present, I was present at the last meeting, but I wasn't physically in the room. And I know there was discussion regarding the high school graduation date. So since that date, I have communicated with our key stakeholders. I've communicated with parents, I've communicated with teachers, I've communicated with students. And the general consensus is to keep graduation on the recommended day of Friday, June 7th. I asked that moving forward, I actually came up with a little proposal. So selecting a graduation date that avoids conflicts and follows tradition involves a few considerations. One thing that came to my attention through some of the communication was one person communicated that graduation in her 26 years as an employee in the school district has been held on a Friday. That made me look back into it, so it's actually decades a graduation in Berwick has been held on a Friday. So moving forward, the following is a guide I, along with our high school administration, will be able to follow. We'll check our academic calendar, review our academic calendar to identify any predetermined dates for events such as final exams, holidays, or other significant activities. Reach out to CMAVTS and provide the Berwick Area School District calendar in advance. We currently do that, but just to make sure we highlight it. Inquire about their graduation date, and then also ask our Berwick Area School District JOC representatives to reach out or to review both graduation dates when you're there, you know, at CMAVTS, and review their calendar as well. Things that we'll consider are local events, being aware of any local or major festivals like holidays or anything that might impact the logistics of the proposed dates. Tradition and preference. I'll determine if there's any traditional or preferred dates for graduation ceremonies within our community. And this could include any types of weekends, months, or historical dates. At this time, the only thing that I'm hearing is historically it's always the Friday after the last day of school, or Friday the last day of school. Previously, weather conditions is something that was considered back in 1987 when I graduated. We graduated outside. But it was changed. I was actually speaking to Mr. Cleaver earlier today, who told me when he was the principal here, it became very hectic because they always planned two places. It wasn't that they planned a rain date, we planned an inside and an outside. And since the addition of our large varsity gym, it's just more convenient to plan it as a one-time event inside. And then the final thing is to communicate early. Once the date is set, communicate it as widely to students, family, faculty, and staff to ensure everyone can plan accordingly. Be careful to consider these factors in consulting with relevant stakeholders, and graduation date is both traditional and minimizes conflicts, with conflicts with other schools and events in our community. So this would be something that I would share with our high school administration, and then as well as we'll see the school calendar today, and it will be, it's been what's posted, it's highlighted, it's got a big boom mark, I don't know what it's called, around it so that it's very clearly marked on our calendar moving forward. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I got a follow-up for this. I see the emails from a relative board member, I see your text, it's basically insinuated that the JOC is the one responsible for setting this graduation date and try to avoid the conflict. I'm going to explain how this whole process is supposed to work. The superintendents have a PAC meeting down at VOTEC every month. This should have been a conversation that was held with Dr. Lanakanis back when all these calendars were done.
Mhm.
Wayne Brookhart never had a conflict with VOTEC graduation. This has only happened the last 2 years. I spoke about this at a meeting 2 years ago. I kind of take offense that this is getting thrown on the lap of the JOC. Because as you brought up before, policy 217, superintendent is responsible for planning and executing graduation. So if the superintendent is in charge of graduation, then how you throwing it on the JOC?
Well, this has been a tradition in Berwick to have it the Friday after the last day or the last day of school, and we have not gone from that, then how is it our fault?
You
Kate,
need to
what's
have
your
the
house?
conversation.
Maybe it would just be easier if VOTEC would do a Saturday graduation and let all the home schools do it on Friday.
Well, actually, Central does a Saturday graduation.
Well, then they'll be in
It
the same
used,
boat.
it used to be
If we move
tradition around
ours
the
to
football
Saturday,
field too.
We'll be in the
So,
same boat.
in my research, Millville had a conflict last year, Bloomsburg's had conflicts before. And in my conversation with Kurt Funkhauser, coming from the previous location that he came from, he said, obviously we try to avoid conflict. That's not something that we're trying to do. And I'm not trying to place blame on anybody, so I'm sorry if that's the feeling that you're getting. But what I am asking is to work as a collective team on this. So if you're recognizing, or John, when you're down there and you're recognizing when they're setting your calendar and asking you to say, wait a minute, hey, Mrs. Kupsky, maybe you missed that.
Should these be discussed at a PAC meeting?
I submit my calendar to them, Mr. Hess.
I mean, when I was the JOC chair, I took time out of my day for work. Just because the prior director had concerns that there's a lot of superintendents that weren't regularly attending these meetings. The meeting I showed up to, the only superintendent that was there was Jeff Rocha. I think that we all need to work together and collaborate for the entire community, which means all of the sending districts need to work with the director together.
Well, I guess that would be a communication that those districts need to have, but, I mean, I attend the meetings. I think I told you the last meeting, and in fact, Mr. Funkhauser will say I showed up to the meeting, and he had changed the date of the meeting.
There's been weather issues that was discussed last night this year. That's when he was there. I can't say anything what he's done or not done because these conversations should have happened when Al Lanakanis was there.
Well, I submitted my calendar. I'm not sure what other than submitting my calendar, I'm supposed to do.
We should work together on a calendar.
So you're insinuating that I'm not?
Well, how does this happen? It didn't happen when Wayne Brookhart was here.
Mr.
If
Hess.
we've had whatever graduations on for 26 years, it's been on Friday, we still had graduations on Friday when Mr. Brookhart
Yeah.
was here.
So at some point, CMABTS had to change their
They're
graduation
always a
to a
week ahead
Friday.
of ours. Always.
I don't even
But
understand
they
how,
started 3 weeks late this year.
I was gonna say, I don't even understand how they can graduate this early if they're started 3 weeks late. I've heard that they actually have to go back after graduation to finish to get their credits.
Some of them might be.
Seniors too?
Yes.
They graduate and then go back to school?
That's what I've heard, I don't know if it's true. So I don't know how they can have a date so early.
Mr. Hess, I believe you were at the meeting when the VOTEC set up their calendar and you voted for it. So
Yeah.
what's the issue?
Because the only thing that was on our calendar was a tentative graduation for June 14th, not June 6th. And this is supposed to be done at superintendent level. She just mentioned policy 217. So now, it's good enough to be on the superintendent, you know, the board level when it benefits you, but it's not when it benefits someone
But
else.
she submitted the calendar
Right.
and the graduation date. What else do you want her to do? She doesn't control VOTEC.
We should even
You're on both
collaborate.
boards. You should be the voice.
Exactly.
You're the common person here between the two schools. You should be the one. Do you say this down at their meetings?
If I need to, I absolutely do.
But you haven't.
They have to book theirs a year in advance based upon their facility. We can book ours the day before. We have control our facility.
Well, as I said, it's an unfortunate situation that's happened this year. It's not,
We
The
need to
first
all
time.
work together going forward, is what I'm saying.
well, I'll print this off. I'll make sure that everybody has a copy of it. And like I said, I communicated with Mr. Funkhauser. He understands that this is something that's happened. It's happened in his previous position where he was. And like I said, it's unfortunate. But that's still my recommendation moving forward.
Keith, where do they typically book their graduation?
I was on touring, you know, because there's not enough room on campus, parking wise and facility wise to hold all the people.
Do you know how much they charge to rent that?
Couldn't tell you.
Well, really, we charge for the varsity gym, I'm sure.
I was gonna say, if we really wanted to work with them, offer them our facility, since it's big enough to graduate our people on a different day.
Because they had it at the.
That way, they don't have to try to book a year in advance, they can work with us,
Great.
and
We have
We
used
have a beautiful
Central football
auditorium.
field in the past.
And they might even be able to move their graduation to the week after they complete school this year.
yeah.
I think
Plus,
there
if
was
they're paying,
pushback
if
from
they're
a lot of
paying
people
for
why.
a Haas auditorium,
That's a good idea.
There is pushback going to a school district or what?
No, from families down there for moving the last week back, if I remember correctly. This was all discussed during the renovation project many months ago.
well, maybe we could take a look at, like, offering up our facility for next year, or discuss it afterwards, and see how the board would want to move forward with that, and see if that'd be an option for us.
I think Central had to move their graduation date last year, didn't they? I'm only looking at you, but they actually moved theirs last year. So, that's a great idea, John. And you're a rep down there, if you wanna bring that up to them.
Well, if they have to book their event a year in advance, because, you know, Haas is being used for other things, I certainly don't think that we're that booked here, that we can't accommodate them somehow.
But Oz has been their tradition. I keep hearing tradition thrown around, so how can one have a tradition and not the other?
But did you
It's an
just say they
argument,
used
too.
to do it they did it at Central? How long ago did they do it
They
there?
did it for 2 years. 1 year was COVID because they wanted it outside, and the year after that, Haas was booked and they didn't have a choice.
Well, we could always offer it up to them and see what they think. If
Good
they-
idea.
if
Well,
they
hurt
say-
to offer.
If they say
Great idea.
tradition and they don't wanna move it, then, you know, obviously we would
You know,
respect that.
really, I mean, I wonder if other districts, if you brought it up to them, if they actually just rotated. You know what I mean, between all districts. Because it's all kids from all districts.
Yeah, I mean, look at our facilities that we have here. I mean, we have an auditorium that's incredible, our field.
We're not the only one that graduates from Haas either. I think Millville, maybe one or two others might too. I don't know off the top of my head, but Tech is not the only one that uses that for graduation.
Even better.
Yeah.
If there's only 2 of us that use our facilities, kind of opens the schedule a little bit.
That's good for the community too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanna bring that up at your GMC sometime?
Yeah,
I'll bring it up at the TAC.
Yeah, I think if we really wanna help them, I think it's a great, you know,
Yeah, I got it.
extend some help. I think for this year, since this has come up, you know, I got a lot of emails from people they already have things booked, families coming in. I think moving the date this year is just out of the question. It's my opinion, talking free. I think for the future, if we wanted to do this, we obviously have to coordinate, and that's also something that we can extend to them and see if they would want to take us up on it. Especially if they're renting the hall from Haas.
I'd imagine it's already booked for 25 already.
Well, we could always take a look at that when we go down there, Keith, and see what they say.
Any additional discussion on that? All right, let's move on to public comment. 3 minutes, please. State your name and township.
Everyone looks at me, so Crystal Mikulowski, Nesquik Township. I think that the problem, I want to get to what I want to talk about, but the FID days are what's causing the issue with the calendar, is we never had FID days before, so now we have the FID days in versus the snow days. So that's what's throwing the calendar off.
No, we had FID days last year too.
I know, but like in previous years, we never had those, so, but anyway.
Thank you.
Yep, earlier today, I emailed all of the board members to bring forth my concerns with the proposed calendar. I hope you had the time to read the email and review the attachments. To summarize for the public, an early dismissal results in 16-minute classes for periods 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9, as periods 4 through 7 are when lunches occur in the middle school. The lunches are 24 minutes and would start at 9:32 for 5th grade, 9:58 for 6th grade, 10:24 for 7th grade, and 10:50 for 8th grade.
Crystal, I can stop you there, and I'll stop the time. Thank you. That's actually not accurate. That's your interpretation.
Well, that's pulled from my daughter's Google Classroom for the early dismissal on Thanksgiving break.
Well, that is early dismissal on Thanksgiving break, but the proposed calendar that we're proposing is actually a rotation of like you would do periods 1 through 4 one day, and then the next time you would do periods 5 through 8 you know, the other day. So actually, it wouldn't be 16-minute periods, it would be full periods on those times. So one half day would be periods 1 through 4, the next time it would be a half day, it would be the other remaining periods. So it would be full periods, just a rotation of which those are. There's actually 6 half days that are for professional development, but 2 of the half days in there are before the break of Thanksgiving and Christmas that are true half days. And those are just complete dismissal days. So I just wanted to clarify. You can go ahead and keep going.
Well, obviously that wasn't made public, so I wasn't aware of that
No,
information.
because those
So,
are planning things that, you know, we know from a curriculum standpoint.
well, not to waste my time, but how would that work though? Like, cause they're every month. So 1 month, half your classes, you would get extra
It's planning and preparation.
periods. The next month you would
It's just
be.
like when a teacher, when they have an assembly or something else, they plan for it.
Okay. But good to know, because, I mean, then that kind of throws the rest of it off, because again,
Well, that's why, I'm
like
sorry.
a
I wanted
16-minute,
to-
yeah, a 16-minute class is nothing, like it's worthless. But, all right, so even still though, half days on Wednesdays, in my opinion, interferes with the flow of the week and staying in a learning mindset. Monday, Tuesday, you're learning, oh, Wednesday, you know, not so much. Maybe it won't be as bad with that setup then, but again, I wasn't aware of that. In my opinion, it would be better on a Friday than a Wednesday to keep that flow. The students are already looking forward to a weekend on a Friday instead of on a Wednesday. Or better yet, have them combined into having one whole day off every other month instead of one every month. Then the teachers can have development all day long instead of just a few hours once the kids are dismissed. I think that would be better for the children and the staff as well. You know, the students' learning process shouldn't be sacrificed for the fear of teachers taking off more on a Friday than a Wednesday. If they're gonna take off, they're gonna take off whether it's a Wednesday or a Friday. And I think if you look at, you know, the staff leave usage on these, you know, half days now, you'll see that pattern. The other issue is the board must also consider the effect early dismissals have on student athletes, especially those that don't live in town. Right now, early dismissals, sometimes they have practices, sometimes they don't. With the staff training, they will not be able to have the practices right after school because most of the coaches are staff, so they would not be able to have them. So parents would have to make special arrangements to have the students brought back down to the school. And most of us that live out in the country, it's anywhere from 15 minutes, 30 or more to get them back down here to get them to a practice or a game. And I really do hope that is taken into consideration. So, and the other concern is October and January. We already have 2 in-service days that month. Do we really need another one that month? You know, just things to take into consideration.
Christy from Nescapec. I'm just wondering if these staff development days are currently in the teacher's contract. Are these hours built into the current teacher's contract? Do they have to show up for these?
No, no, any staff, like an in-service day, an off-duty day, they don't, no.
So if they're not currently
There's
required?
no requirement for anything, other than the mandatory state requirement trainings that they're required to do. So if they're absent on a day that a mandatory training, they're required to make that up.
So it wouldn't really matter if it was on a Wednesday or a Friday? They could just not show up
Right.
regardless?
Yep.
Anyone else? All right, with that, we'll move on. Academic affairs, we have one item, the approval of the 24-25 school calendar. Any discussion for that?
The only thing I have, it was mentioned at the last meeting, I got messages from several teachers, and it came across, and not in the best of taste, that most teachers take offense to the fact that these days have to be on a Wednesday because people are afraid that they're gonna take time off Friday. If their days are beneficial and the teachers want them, it shouldn't matter if it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, they should be there for it.
Can I say something quickly? It's not about the day in particular, but we are trying to work to have some after-school care on these days. And I didn't share this in the last meeting because we haven't really been able to move forward with confirming this. But one of the opportunities that we're looking at is having students from the university come down to be able to provide some childcare and enrichment activities on those afternoons. It's very difficult for us to be able to have college students come in and give up their Friday afternoon. So I want to be really clear that I think the comments that were made at the last meeting may have been taken a little bit out of context. This was done with a lot of thought, and this was done in a way that we are trying to minimize any impact on parents having to find childcare. So this is something that we are trying to do. We can move it to a Friday. What I'm going to share with you then, though, if that is something, I do not think I'll be able to pursue that with the university. They will not be able to move that forward. So I can continue to look at other organizations, but that is a hope that we do have. I don't have it concrete. I cannot tell you that it's a 100% commitment, but I know Friday afternoons will not work for college students. It's just a fact.
We also have staffing shortages on Fridays, and so if we already move to a half day, unfortunately, it may turn into the full day then of a coverage issue.
So I have a question about that. If this childcare thing does go through, are you running a bus twice? Are you running a bus at early dismissal and then running a bus again at
We're gonna have, would have to be some give and take with this. I can look to see if we have funding available that we could look. There are some programs that do come up with grants in the future that they are able to run some second buses. Here at Berwick, we haven't had those types of programs in a little while, but it is something that they do at Central and a number of other local school districts where they have after-school programs where they can run a bus to take kids home later. So I'm not saying that that's I cannot tell you that's a 100%, but I am very, very cognizant of the challenges with childcare and transportation. This is a situation where we're trying to make the best all around. I don't think there's any perfect solution for this, but this is what really does seem to be the best option for us right now. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Hi,
like.
Bob, I'm gonna put you on speaker. Will you mute your background then? Thanks. Okay, bye. Or not bye. Sorry, I forgot to pull on.
He's in now?
He's in here now.
Any additional discussion for the calendar?
On the Wednesdays, I think childcare would definitely help some people, and if it's something teachers really want and it'll be beneficial, it'd be good. I think we do need to keep in mind that probably a lot of us, all the district employees have paid sick time, paid vacation time. There's a lot of people in our communities that may not have anybody for childcare, and they don't get any paid time off or get very little. So if they have to take days, it's not just a logistical problem, it's a financial problem. Be taking days off because their kid's not in school.
But it doesn't make sense, like Wednesday afternoon,
No, it
Friday
wouldn't.
afternoon.
That way, it wouldn't matter what day it is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can talk a big
Just
day
adding that many
either way.
half days
Yes.
in is a challenge for some people.
Mhm.
Seems to be something there's been a lot of community pushback against.
Children's services are really needed. They need to have those half days so they can talk to each other. And plan.
Anything else?
I can tell you also in the workshop that I just went to with all superintendents from across the state, finding a common time for teachers was a very common topic that they were discussing. Some school districts were discussing because of the hours, they're only doing 4-day weeks. That has an impact on transportation, like they're doing strictly 4-day weeks the whole year. That has an impact on transportation and the contracts for food service and those kinds of things. There's some that are, there was more of the majority doing a model similar to ours, but it is an overall challenge across the state and mostly induced because of the shortage of teachers. I was explaining to somebody before, back in the day, we used to have substitutes that would travel. We would have 5 substitutes, and we would have them for the whole day. And because we had exclusive subs in every building, and if they weren't needed, but even if they were, we would schedule staff development, and these 5 teachers would have it for 2 hours. And then we would move to these 5 the subs would go to the other 2 teachers, the other 5 teachers. And so you could literally get through 30 people in a day or even 40 people in a day. And it was much more useful because it was embedded in the day. So the difference between a full day of staff development is it's a full day of attending to that, and then going back to your classroom, and then a sub or somebody else being in your classroom, and then having to catch up that work. So, and you were an educator as well, and you understand that. Versus if you embed things in smaller amounts, best practices show that they're more likely to be carried out versus one-time things that then you come back to a regular full day and you then need to have to implement on the next day. So there's a lot of approaches to this, but I can tell you it's a statewide issue. I'm assuming it's a national-wide issue of being able to address the staff needs. The impact of being able to provide this training or these interactions that the teachers so much need to have common planning time is the impact then it does have back on the students. So it's not just again something like Dr. Charlotte was saying that we're taking lightly. It's the return we're saying then that the teachers will be able to instruct the students and meet their needs. One of those days, the October 14th day, is actually a common planning day or a common day within the IU, so all the school districts are taking that day.
Anything else for the calendar? Can we get a motion to approve the calendar?
I'll make a motion that we approve the calendar.
Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Rachel, can we get a roll call, please?
Sure. Mrs. Post,
Yes.
Mr. Nestle,
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer,
No.
Mr. Lanning,
No.
Mrs. Curla,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
No.
Mr. Eisenhower,
Yes.
and Mr. Yost.
Yes. Next, we have buildings and grounds, one item, to approve a contract with EI Associates to conduct a facility assessment for $7,500. Any discussion on that?
I knew, I thought we were gonna have a buildings and grounds meeting to discuss this and the other company. And we've never done that, it just popped up that we're having a special meeting to approve it. We talked about possible, because one had this offer, the other one had offered basically free of charge, possibly subscription fees down the line. We'd entertained ideas of using both. So, I'm wondering how we ended up here rather than at a buildings and ground meeting and voting on this next month.
Well, what we really want to do at this point is get somebody on this project right away. The buildings assessment is definitely important, but the aspect of it that is more important is the fact that the Act 33 and 34 grants have opened with the state starting on March 1st. Whatever one we chose was going to help us write the grants. So we want to get on that as fast as we can to get that grant writing taken care of. The thing about EI that a lot of us like was they do everything in-house. They don't have to contract with anyone. We didn't have anybody else that we had talked to that had that same, you know, I want to say ability to be able to do that like EI could. When it came to Site Logic, they did have a couple things I liked. I liked the fact that they could do an assessment on our buildings with the drone. But the one aspect that I was leaning toward with Site Logic was the fact that they do have the My Site Logic site that they could put into a computer system for us. But the more that we looked at that, we have the FMX that we're already familiar with and that we do use. We found out that it can do a lot more than we had anticipated that it could do. So we want to try to explore that rather than bring in something from Site Logic, since we already own the FMX. So because of that, I think that EI is more than capable of doing everything that we need. I'm not opposed to, you know, if we want to use Site Logic for the drone and have them come in and do that, if we need that, I think we should take that recommendation with EI and say, is that something that you'd like to do? Should we try to have you do like a heat index of where we're losing heat? But for now, I think EI is the best choice for what we need done at the moment, because I firmly believe that their grant writing skills they've done it many times. They've been there. And I know they're gonna charge us $7,500, but at the same time, if we bring them in, they have the opportunity to make us, you know, potential millions getting back in grants. So I think it would definitely benefit us to have them here. But that's my take on it. Anyone else, you know, you want to weigh on it, we'll certainly discuss it.
But Site Logic said they write grants too,
They do.
and who is we? When you say we thought, we decided this, we decided that.
Well, we haven't decided anything yet.
No, we're
This was-
saying we thought that this would be a better company,
A couple-
so is we.
A couple of us who've talked about the EI, I mean, this is your opportunity to weigh in on whatever you
Well, I
like.
know, I was just asking who else thought that EI was, like, who do we?
Oh, well, a couple of us, Jared, Wendy, I've talked to, I just got opinions around the board.
Well, after the
There's a
whole
couple-
presentations, everyone agreed that EI was the best.
Yeah.
I know, Well,
That is true. So, I was contacted by, after the, okay, so I was not here that Monday. I was the following week. I have to go back because I missed that week. And I received a phone call from, EI, from Bronson, stating that there was a decision made, that 2 board members had reached out to him, and said that there was a decision made that we were going to be working with both companies.
John said that out loud in the meeting.
I said we would discuss it.
He said we were talking about working with using SiteLogic and EI.
Right.
Like, he said that out loud at the meeting.
That was overheard from the meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you what happened.
Okay.
So I received a call from Bronson, that he received a call from SiteLogic, that that SiteLogic, that 2 school board members approached him and said that we would be working together. That's all. And I did confirm it with SiteLogic. And so I reached out to John and to Jared and said, quite frankly, there was a decision made because I wasn't aware of one. And so then I asked, what were we planning on doing with it? That was the process in which I took, because I was not aware that a decision had been made. So then the proposal was to have a special meeting and put it on the agenda for discussion and make the decision tonight. So here it is, discussion.
When they were here and presented, I think it was unanimous in the room that we liked, everybody I felt liked EI the best because they were one-stop shopping.
Yeah, just last I knew, we were gonna have a buildings and grounds about it and discuss it further, look into what the costs, some long-term costs of both were, all that, and we're trying to push this quickly because of grant writing. If I recall correctly, both of them offered to help with grant writing, even if we didn't do the facility study. We're certainly not gonna have the facility study before these grants have to be in, so that wouldn't, hiring them for a facility study isn't really dependent, grants aren't dependent upon that. If they offered to help anyway, and if they didn't follow through on that offer they made, that would say a lot about what kind of people they are. And also we have, the IU is having boardship on these grants, has offered their grant writer for free to work with any of the districts to help with these grants.
Is it free?
What's that?
Did they offer it for free?
They're gonna contact all the districts and see what the needs are and do a webinar. That's coming up.
Another thing I wasn't informed of.
So they're gonna teach us how to write grants, or they're gonna write the grants?
I don't know the answer to that.
So part of the conversation when I then was going back and forth between EI, again, because I wasn't aware that a decision was made, was I asked SiteLogic about the My Site program, which I've always been impressed with, but I know that the conversation has been with everyone about what are we doing about FMX, the system that we already have, and how can that system work. So if we were to go with the My Site, then we would be abandoning anything we've been doing with the FMX. And then that then, just as you said, would come with a fee.
True, and at our meeting, I said I would like to work with both, but we also had to sit down and discuss it as a board, because we can't make decisions. We didn't have a vote on it, if nothing was official at that time, at our last board meeting. So, at the time, I was willing to entertain working with both. I'm not exactly opposed to working with both, but there's some behind the scenes things that happen that I'd rather not get into at the moment. I think EI could provide everything that we need them to do. Again, there are some aspects that SiteLogic can do that if we wanted to choose to use them for that, I would entertain it. But whatever we want to do with this, we should put it out. You know, what's your proposal? What would you like to see them happen? Because if we're going to have two people or two different groups in here, we have to define who's going to do what aspect of the job. And what do you want them to do? What do you want Site Logic to do? What do you want EI to do?
Well, one of them would have to be the lead contractor. We
Yes.
can't divvy it up and tell them what we want to do. We have to establish that one of them are gonna be the lead contractor.
And I talked to both, and they have worked together before, and they're more than willing to work together now if we chose to do that. Both companies have said that they would work with each other, and they've already done that in the past. So, my
I
thing
think it's
is,
clear though with Site Logic though, is the purpose is to then go with the My Site software.
that's,
Like when I communicated
Yes.
with him, again, when he called me, my understanding was that was very clear. And I don't know, Brent, if he's ever said that to you, but when I said we wanted to do the study and load the information into our FMX software, that wasn't part of the deal.
and another thing I'd like to put out for facts, when it comes to offering the study for free, there's always something that goes along with that. And like Wendy was alluding to there, the My Site Logic that they're hoping that we would purchase. Once they come in and take a look at all your buildings, they charge you 1.5 cents per square foot of building that's assessed. So, and that's a fee that continues. So because of that, when at our last meeting, I had done the research and had looked at this and then found out, I don't want to call it a hidden cost, but it was there. And so because I saw that, although we might get it for free at first, it's something that we're going to pay for later. And with the fact that we have the FMX and we already have a lot of people that have already a lot of time into it, Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong here, you already have a meeting set up coming up here soon with tomorrow with yourself, Brent, right, and Steve.
Christian.
So just try to delve into the FMX to see how much more we can get out of it. So once I looked at that,
That seems to be the problem. You looked at it. That was supposed to be brought up and discussed
and we are.
in a buildings and grounds meeting, because that was where we left it, was we
Well,
would
this
look into
is
that
the,
cost. we
this
what
is the
that
meeting
cost
for
would be.
that this is my opinion. If you have something different, this is the meeting for that. The buildings and grounds meeting that we were going to do is this meeting right now that we're doing.
I didn't know you were gonna have another buildings and grounds meeting. I thought we were taking it to the whole board next.
That was where it was left last time.
I like Site Logic for the software.
Discuss those costs, see exactly what that cost would actually work out to be.
I like Site Logic mostly for the software, but I've been into FMX online, and the best I can tell, FMX will do everything Site Logic will do.
That would be another question. Is EI going to do the data entry for us?
We talked to them about that, and they said that they'd be more than willing to help take the building study that they come up with and help us input it into FMX if we need to.
That's weeks worth of data entry. Brent does not have time to be sitting at a computer for weeks.
And that's why we asked that, because Bronson said that he's more than willing to help us out with that. We talked to him, and he said he would help us put that in. And, because we asked him on the phone, we had a conversation, and we had asked, would you be willing to help input all the data that you guys gather for the building study into our FMX system? He agreed that he would do so.
Is that in the contract?
Pardon?
Is that in the contract?
Is it in the contract? Brent, have you looked at the contract with them?
Yeah, they just added something to it, but I couldn't tell you that it says
All
yes
that
or
we added
no.
to it is
That they would come present.
that they will come and present. Bob, you're on, do you recall?
Yes.
Do you recall in the contract, does it talk about the data entry, the assisting with data entry into FMX? Or the,
I don't recall that, but I'll look real quickly.
Yeah, because outside the study, there's a lot of open room for additional buildings. So if you push beyond the scope of work, it's gonna cost more than this.
Brent, can you call Bruce?
I gotta go get my phone.
The concern I have about it is 2 years ago, this board voted to spend $25,000 extensively study, that's the PEC sale. That's the fact was voted by this board to close. Now we're gonna spend another 75 and include the same buildings again. So basically, that 25,000 sunk, as sunk cost.
What study are you talking about, Keith? Because the last study that I saw on any of the buildings was really not good. Not a single one of them detailed anything. It was a 20,000-foot view based on square footage and age of the buildings that Clint confirmed. So I don't know what study that you have. If you do have a study that's already
That
done,
was the EM
inclusive,
study, we
please
spent
present it.
25,000 on it.
Where is it?
But I think
I think they're two different studies.
we're talking about a facility assessment, more of the,
The inner workings of each building, the roofs, the
I think that's what
systems, the
we're looking at
HVAC.
now. We want something much more
detail.
detailed than that.
And that's what we're looking at.
This will have to give
A
Brent
lot
a
of money for
database.
something that wasn't very useful.
This
So
study,
that makes the 25,000 AM charges a crime.
That was the previous board that
It's not,
did that.
AEM did nothing wrong, we're the ones that approached them for work, we're the one that approved it, and. went
Well,
by
it was a
them.
different kind of study that we were asking for, because we were looking to consolidate buildings. We weren't looking from a facility.
So this study's more of a deep dive, pumps, compressors, I mean, every system, component of the systems, they'll get into it, tell us what's there, what needs to be fixed, catalog everything.
Hey,
So that
just
going
spread
forward,
it
we'll
out.
have an actual preventive maintenance program,
I'm
so
good.
we
We're
can
here
budget
at
for
the
that,
board
we keep
meeting.
things rolling better instead of having to be reactive every time something breaks.
After the.
That's not to say stuff won't break, but the more we can do preventative ones, the less breakage we should
About
have.
helping
Yeah,
to put
this-
it
this
into our FMX
Program
system.
that they're gonna help us out
And
with
we
is
don't think
going to help
that
us
is in the contract.
project
Do you-
what we
are
need to
you
set
familiar
back
with that?
for maintenance costs, like Jared was saying.
Jared, I don't see
Okay.
anything in the proposal about entry of data.
Okay, is it something that if it's not in the contract, you'd be willing to put in there? Okay. Okay, thank you. You'll be by your phone, right, just in case? All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
what was the recommendation?
What's that, Brent?
He said that they'd be, Bronson did mention to him something about that. They'd be willing to assist with it.
Right.
And he said they would also be willing to put that into the contract if you want it revised.
Okay.
He's pretty sure that that's not in the contract. I gave Clint the contract.
I don't see it.
No, I don't see it.
No, it's not in there.
Mark, to answer your question, the last Buildings and Grounds Committee that we had, when we had the three different groups in here, we were pretty unanimous about EI. We like EI. At the last board meeting, we were going to discuss it again. And this basically is the open discussion about it. We did not have a chance to put together another Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting before tonight.
So what are we trying to compare them? Does State Logic have something else available?
Site Logic has their software, where they'll come in and they'll assess your building and they put everything into what they call My Site Logic. They can waive the fee at first. They offered to give us the building study for free. And in hopes that they do business with us in the future. This is something that they don't hide. They come out and tell you that, we do this because we hope to get business from you in the future. The My Site Logic program, when you look at what they have in the proposal, like I said, it's like 1.2 or 1.5 cents per square foot of building assessed, all the buildings assessed, that you start paying that fee. So when I looked at that, we sat down and talked about the FMX system that we already have, that we already paid for, and it can do so much more than we utilize it for now. In my opinion, I don't think that we need to bring a whole other system in when we have something that could do that would meet our needs. So it kind of took Site Logic off the table a little bit, because although their system might be great, I just don't think it's something that we need. I think we need to utilize what we already have, that we already paid for, because you can do more than what we use it for at the moment.
My site doesn't talk to Schedule Star, and I don't understand all the inner working, but Bo and Brent, that's significant for you guys, right?
It is for Bo. Well, yeah, it is for you too. It's,
Yeah.
well, because the
If we don't know
FMX
there's a game, we
because-
don't know to set up for it or line
I was,
field,
right,
so.
and then it's part of the facility use forms is FMX, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and then that's what pushes it out to all of the, like when Brent has to assign his people.
Clint, you're suggesting this is premature then?
A little bit, yeah, we just hadn't, the last I knew, we were gonna have a meeting to discuss some of these details, so we could bring a recommendation to the board and full board, and it never happened.
What are the major differences of contention or concern?
A lot of just a procedure of how it's happened. Not a lot, actually, with the companies.
But is there one that you like more than the other?
Both of them have good points, and that's kind of the hard part, is we're trying to determine which one would be our best fit and our best value.
So what are your pros and cons?
I think Psychologic takes a little bit different view, it seems, a little more holistic view of the school. EI is more a traditional architect, which we've worked with before. Traditional architects do tend to find ways to tack on extra fees and projects as things go. And they err towards wanting to build buildings, which isn't really what we're looking for right now. But they do everything in-house, so that's a good positive for them, where Psychologic has to contract certain things out.
But one thing I like about EI is what they put on their presentation. They have not tried to contact any board member to solicit anybody, any of us. I can't say the same for Psychologic. I like their professionalism. I like what they put out. Because of that, that's one reason why I'm leaning toward EI. I don't feel it appropriate to be calling our buildings and grounds guy, asking him what's going on, calling board members, asking what's going on. EI put out their presentation, and it is what it is. We like it, great. If we don't, we don't. We have questions, we call and ask them. They've been courteous. So, again, their professionalism put them more than a step above, in my opinion. If anyone else wants to weigh in on it, absolutely, it's what this is for.
My take on EI is not that they're an architect firm, they're a full service.
They do everything.
The Buildings and Grounds Committee has been working awful hard with Brent, and he seems to know where we should go. He's been working hard. No.
Brett, do you have a, put you on the spot?
I guess if you only wanted one, if you said we can only choose one, we can't choose two, and you put a gun to my head, I would say EI Associates. I don't know, I use the FMX, that is true. I don't know all it can do. I know what I utilize it for, it works for us here. I can't tell you that I've ever been in the SiteLogic, my site. I can't tell you how grandiose it is or that it's not, so.
Well, actually, what happened with the FMX that one day was, I had gone to Steve Christian about, I don't know what. So we all have access from an administrative level, and, so I go in and see my part of it, my little area. and I had Steve Christian come in to help me with something, and the next thing you knew, I realized you could pull all these reports and things from it. Gosh, at one time, somebody asked for something and you
John did, and I printed it out and gave it to him,
Yeah, you printed off like all your work orders.
for all the buildings.
Right, but when Steve and I went in and played with it, we realized what it does is it does a chart, or like a pie chart, and it lists every one of his employees. It lists, you know, Jared and Casey and all of those guys based on HVAC or who's being assigned, and it broke it down by percentage of who's getting, how many of the assignments are going to them. And so when I said that to Steve, I go, well, does Brent have access to that? And, you know, we didn't know. So then that's when we said, oh, there's a great deal more. And then I, you know, really started diving into it, because I don't use it for those things. I go in it and use it for facility approval. But when it goes through all the other levels and then it comes to me and I do my part. You know, but it became very clear we're not truly using it for all the capacities that it could be used for. So I scheduled a meeting, and that's where I said we need to have a better understanding of everything that FMX could do for us. On a regular basis, I mean, I would probably say weekly, I get 2 to 3 solicitations from companies about facility management. There's like a library one.
Master library.
You know, so there's a variety of them. So that was, again, like I said, when it came to me in this roundabout way, I called the chairperson and I'm like, what's going on? I didn't realize this. And so then in my weekly communication, I put that in my weekly communication that I sent out on whatever day, Sunday, I think. And I said, you know, this was gonna be what we were gonna put on the agenda. So I assumed that tonight was going to be a discussion, if you guys were going to choose to move forward, so. That was my take on it.
Okay. Do you have a recommendation?
Not really.
You, or for you?
For myself,
I just thought should we have a motion tonight, or you guys want to have another buildings and grounds?
I say call the vote.
well, again, the grant application process was open on the 1st. The longer we sit on this, the longer, you know, we could potentially miss out on that. There's, just to give a heads up to everyone on the committee, here on the board, we've already approved a lot of money for the roof on the high school. Because of how things are, if that's written in, they could be put onto a grant where that could be something that could save the district millions. Now that's the thing, we can't count on the grant, we can only apply for it in hopes that we would get it. If we would get it, it'd be a big money savings to the district. So that's why this started out as a buildings assessment. You know, we went down that avenue. But once we found out about Act 33 and Act 34, why it quickly became more important to get on that than the building study. Now, of course, they'll both do it. But talking to both, Bronson from EI has already done this quite a bit. I've talked to other districts, and EI has actually gotten them millions by helping them write grants. And in fact, one of our neighboring districts actually had to spend $1 million more than what they wanted to, because there's certain criteria sometimes when you apply for a grant that you have to spend, you have to hit certain things, you have to put certain things in your budget. But because they spent that extra $1 million, they got $4 million back on the grant for the total project. So, and again, when it comes to site logic, we have people who wanna work with SiteLogic. All I ask is, since they were already offering it for free, what aspect do you want them to take? Right, what do you, because like I said, now they do have the drone pilot, Clint. They have their own drone pilot. They'll take a look at the schools and see what kind, where you lose to eat. I still think that's a great idea, and if that's something that EI says that they would like to see, that's on the table too. But I still think we should move forward with EI.
What's the deadline for grant applications?
I believe it's the end of the month, or.
No, it's May 31st.
That's right, the end of May 30th, right?
Right.
Yeah.
May
So
1st or
Clint-
May 31st?
31st. May 31st? I thought it was 31st, right?
May 31st.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but, so Clint, again, back to, you know, the study wouldn't be complete. But you got a proposal for HVAC?
From McClure?
McClure,
Yes.
Yeah, we do have that.
you know, because I know that that was something that was stressed. And I think you were stressing it, especially over here at Salem. And, you know, that would be something else that we would include in
Yes.
it. The 1.8 million for the high school roof, and that amount as well. So, that's, for me, that's my sense of urgency, you know.
Those grants focus on emergent items, like the roof, the HVAC, like so many things that are hindering us right now that we really need. So,
even if we put on this thing, we're not ruling out SiteLogic.
that's my point.
So there is urgency with this.
Yes, there's urgency with, we need to get somebody here, get them on with this. This isn't a vote to keep SiteLogic away. If there's something that they do that they're better at than EI, we'd be foolish not to look at it. It's just that,
So basically, we're paying $7,500 for a grant writer to get it done tonight, instead of just hiring SiteLogic tonight, who's gonna write the grant for free? Because that's what I'm getting out of this. Because if
There's-
you're just gonna hire one of them now just to get grants written, why pay $7,500 when we can just get it done for free?
because there's other things that they have done where they told us they had the ability to do this, the ability to do that, and then we checked into some of what they were saying and found out it was false. So I'm having issues
Exactly what
with,
that big?
pardon me?
What exactly would that big?
Well, at the presentations, they were specifically asked if they do everything in-house, and they said yes, and we know for a fact that's not true.
What don't they do in-house?
They hire architects out, they hire EI.
They hired EI for
They
one.
hire a lot of people. They don't have everything in-house. I don't even think they had an architect in their binder listed, do they?
I thought that was a one thing they showed with the blue.
It's worded funny, they call it an architect of,
No, an engineering.
Architectural estimator.
yes, so he basically hires somebody else to come in and do what EI already does.
But they stood there saying, we do everything in-house. And we know they have worked with EI, they've hired EI. When we were doing the AEM and SiteLogic specifications for the Nescatec, they said, we'll hire AEM if you hire us to do the project. So they are not an all in-house company.
But that also gives us options to hire different architects too. So we're not stuck with
So-
someone like AEM charging us $100,000 to design an LGI room and we didn't even use it.
So you're hiring a manager instead of just going directly to the source.
But then if you go to the source, you're stuck with whatever they charge. If you hire the source, then that's your architect and then that's who you're stuck with, and then they can charge you whatever they want.
Well, that's if we do a project. They're coming in and doing a study.
Right, but you're hiring an architect to do the study, so basically.
We're hiring a
they're-
firm that has architects, engineers, planners, and they also
Right, but
go out
they're
and
still
You
an
can still
architect.
bid different jobs.
And they still go out and do the bid process.
An architect
They,
per
But
se.
SiteLogic's not gonna do it for free. They're not gonna come and invest all this time in our district for free. They're doing it with this, with the
Hope that we
idea
would use
that
SiteLogic.
we're gonna use them when we do projects. What projects are we gonna do?
And then
We
Renovate
use
and
the money
build.
to do projects.
Exactly.
and then when we use their My SiteLogic,
And we
charge
already,
us $0.015 per square foot
right,
of assessed value, or of of assessed buildings, so the hidden, I don't even wanna call them hidden fees, they put them on paper, they're there.
And they already know their system doesn't work with what Brent currently uses,
Which is
or
the-
what Bo uses.
which is the
So
big
that's just
thing.
gonna hinder us even more.
Exactly.
We're not taking them on forever. It's just one project.
I'm
One
just
project,
saying,
yes.
$7,500 for.
7,500 though to get a couple million.
To get a couple million, yeah,
It seems, and why are we delaying this at this point?
agreed.
John, you know how you said about what's written into the grant? I have a list and I just wanted to give it to you. The Salem fire alarm for 26,000, HVAC 169,000. The high school roof recoat is 1.8 million. The Tremco came last week to do a roof survey on Salem in the middle school, because there's some areas that aren't out of warranty, but they're getting close. So they could be written into that grant, so that's several $100,000 for those two, once I get the quotes back from that. The West Berwick brick repair, we talked about 10,000. The elevator is 130,000 at the middle school. The coping stone repairs down at Crisbin is 30. The natural gas line we talked about needing run for the kitchen equipment is close to 13,000, and the painting quote is 21,850. So all that can literally be put into that grant.
And thank you for putting out all the stuff that we had talked about earlier, because it gives a sense to the public as to why this is really happening, why we want to get on this ASAP.
Thanks, Brent.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak to why we're including Nescapec, why the building, why everything over there is being included in this?
Why? Well, because we still own the building, for one. In my personal opinion, I think the building is in good shape. And I don't, there's a lot of ideas that have been kicked around, just nothing formal. But that building is a part of those ideas, put it that way. There's other things even too that were talked about we need to discuss afterwards or at a later time. And with anything, with whatever you decide to do with that building, you still need to know its condition. That's why we need to have a good comprehensive study on, the HVAC system, the electrical, everything that's going on in that building, so we know exactly what we have over there. We did not have that with the last study. It was basically a 20,000-foot view, age times square footage. So we owe that to ourselves to know exactly what's going on with that building.
It's not costing anymore, right?
$7,500 is what they proposed to come in here and do this study for the district.
Fair enough. Any further comments or discussion? Can we get a motion to approve, to accept this contract?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Eisenhower,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurlove,
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer,
No.
Mr. Nestle,
Yes.
Mrs. Post,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
No.
Mr. Lanning,
No.
and Mr. Yost.
Yes.
5-4.
Lastly, we have the approval for day-to-day substitute for Samantha Smith. Any questions on that? Can we get a motion to approve Samantha Smith for day-to-day substitute?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Public comment, please.
I did.
Oh, my cheater sheet doesn't have public comment, I'm sorry.
I don't think it works.
Yes.
You don't have to, you don't have to.
Public comment.
Yeah.
Afterwards too, Bob?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. After the agenda items. general public comment.
All right, we'll have public comment again. 3 minutes, please state your name and township.
Crystal Mikulowski, I was just wondering if any more consideration, thought has been put into the bus stops for Nescopec. I don't know who did propose bus stops. I'm hoping more research is done because one was put right by a registered sex offender on PA Macon's Law. So I would hope that more research is done and these proposed bus stops are reevaluated to not put one in front of a sex offender's household.
Anyone else?
Leo Zielinski, Nescopec. You voted to close an elementary school based on a 20,000-foot view, correct, Mr. Eisenhower?
No, wrong.
Because it would cost too much to keep, according to the study that you're now saying is invalid, and you need to perform another study to fully assess the building. So we closed an elementary school because it was going to cost too much to maintain, but we're still going to maintain the building and potentially use it for something else. I'm just asking if I have this correct.
I would say that's not correct.
Then what is correct?
You have to ask the board that voted to close Nescopec.
That includes you.
I didn't vote to close Nescopec, I voted to uphold the previous board vote. And that was based off what I believe is best for the students. It had nothing to do with the commission, so.
Oh, it absolutely did. That was the
No,
entire
that's
premise.
in my vote, no, it absolutely did not.
That
My
was
vote
the
had nothing to
entire
do with the condition of
premise
the building either.
No.
of the condition of, it was,
That-
that's what the
Nescopec's
whole,
pretty good shape.
that's what the entire previous vote was based on. Was the condition of the building and that it was too expensive to keep.
It's too expensive to renovate 2 schools and to staff 2 schools.
You already
That's
renovated
why
Nescopec.
Nescopec was closed.
Millions of dollars were put into Nescopec.
Yes, with paint and a roof, that's it.
So if it's going to be used for something else, are you going to do no renovations on the building?
I'm not aware of what plans are in place, so that would be discussed.
Well, something's, I mean, Mr. Eisenhower said something was being discussed. What
There are
else?
ideas, yes.
There may be ideas, but doesn't mean that
But
we've
you
had
can't-
So,
discussions.
nothing
so
you
you would
put out in public.
entertain renovations for other ideas, but not for an elementary building?
Again, it's too early to discuss anything about that yet.
Your vote seems incredibly premature based on the discussion this evening. This study that you're voted on tonight should have happened prior to you voting to rescind the previous vote.
This-
You should have
this is
had-
This is an assessment looking at the condition of the building,
Yes,
exactly.
which
That's
should have
not
happened prior to you voting to rescind the previous vote.
My decision to close or to uphold exactly what happened with the previous board was not based on the condition of Nescopec.
Then what was it based on? Because the previous vote was,
We've discussed this plenty of times, I'm not wasting any more time on this, thank you.
Anyone else? We'll go back to our motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.